Okay, we'll all rise for the pledge to the flag and the invocation. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Go ahead, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day, this beautiful weather we've been having, and the opportunity to come together and to serve you and to serve each other in our community. We pray that you would preside over this meeting and to guide us in our discussions and decisions and help us do the very best possible in helping and serving each other. Thank you for this holiday season we're about to enter. We pray your blessings upon this country, the state, this community, and especially the Lord, as always, our men and women who give so much to preserve and protect our precious way of life, our first responders, our military. Pray that you be with them, especially that they need you and protect them in these holy in your holy name. We pray these things, Lord. Amen.
Have we all had a chance to look at the minutes? And does anybody have any additions or corrections or a motion to accept them as they're written?
Move to accept as written.
A second. Okay. All those opposed, in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right, we'll take the minutes as written. I have no announcements. Any from the code officers? No? Then we'll go right on to swear in the witnesses. So everyone who's going to is planning to talk tonight, please stand and be sworn in.
Raise your right hands, please. And when I say state your name to the record. I state your name. You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this board in this matter. Thank you. So sworn, Mr. Chairman.
Impressive. Okay, we'll go right on to case number 19-3039. Mr. Rose.
Yes. Good evening, gentlemen. For the record, my name is Officer Kurt Rose, Walton County. Case number 1 and number 2, Cotamola Holdings in Eastern Lake Village. The county is requesting a continuance until the next meeting. The parties are trying to work together, and we have already seen a pre-application meeting for one of them for splitting the parcel, so we're trying to give them the opportunity to go the direction they need to.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
You know, this was continued last month also,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
So, all right, it's just taking more time.
Yeah.
Just taking more time. Okay.
Okay, any more discussion or a motion to accept the recommendation?
I believe we accept the recommendation.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we'll go on to case number 3, or the third case, case 18-000518. Mr. Rose.
Yes, sir. All right, once again, good evening. My name is Officer Kurt Rose, Walton County Code Enforcement. This is case 18-000518. This is at 51 South Lake Road, Santa Rosa Beach. Property owner is a Richard Brooks. The violation on this parcel is 4.0704 White Sands Protection. On February 6th of 2018, a complaint was received by Walton County Code Enforcement regarding building without permits, clearing in the coastal dune lake protection zone, the importation of non-white material, and that's it, I'm sorry, at 51 South Lake, which is located in the unincorporated area of Walton County. Officer Kurt Rose conducted the initial site inspection and determined at that time that the parcel was in violation of the Coastal Dune Lake Protection Zone, building permits required, and White Sands Protection Zone in importation prohibitions. During the initial inspection, I made contact with the property owner, Mr. Richard Brooks. My inspection showed that they were in the process of constructing new porches, exterior walls on the bottom portion of the home. It is a piling structure, so they were enclosing underneath the pilings, and then they're adding new windows and doors around it with breakout walls on the bottom. They had cut a secondary driveway in to be able to access materials to the back of the property. And on that driveway that they cut in, they had placed a gray gravel down on the driveway. This is the location, 51 South Lake. It's just a couple lots off of 30A on Camp Creek. This is a picture of the driveway that they had cut in and the gray gravel that they had added. Through the
Excuse me, that you said this is on South Lake, right?
South Lake Drive, yes.
Okay, so that would have been Eastern Lake.
Or Eastern Lake, I'm sorry. Sorry, I was thinking that, you're right, Eastern Lake. All right, back to the timeline. On April 19th of 2018, I spoke with a contractor for the project, John Carroll. He said he had just taken over and he was going to be getting the permits to be able to do all the work that they had done out there. From April of 2018 to March of 2019, they had acquired a few of the permits, not all of them, but some of them. In March 6th of 2019, Mr. Brooks notified me that his contractor had pulled out and he'd have to find another contractor. On May 13th of 2019, he informed me that he had hired contractor Richard Robbins, who would be completing the work. On June 6th of 2019, I confirmed with the Walton County Planning Department, Aaron Craker, that the violation for the Coastal Dune Lake Protection Zone clearing was not valid. Their lot is large enough that the small amount of clearing they did for the driveway did not require a clearing permit because there was already a primary structure. And they had not cleared anything close to the lake that would require it. On July 23rd, 2019, I met with on-site with contractor Richard Robbins, explained the remaining violations on the property, which included a building permit requirement and the White Sands Protection inhibited importation of prohibition. He understood what was needed. He didn't agree with the fact that it was the white sands because the gray rock they used was similar to the roadway, but the code language says no importation. That and anything done to roadways that the county does, they're exempt from the code anyway. Moving on to July 8th, 2019, a notice of violation was sent out certified mail to the property owner of record, according to the Walton County Property Appraiser's website and the Walton County Clerk of Court's website. No further contact was made after several attempts with either the property owner or the contractor since the July meeting. On October 10th, a notice of hearing was sent out certified mail to the property owner of record, to Walton County Property Appraiser's website and the Walton County Clerk of Courts. A notice was also emailed to the property owner, and the notice of hearing was also posted at the South Walton Annex Building and on the property. Basically, this comes down to they said they would do the work, this is what we're going to do, and then just stopped communicating for months. I call, I email, and I get nothing, no responses. On October 23rd, 2019, the signature card was returned. It was signed by R. Brooks. On September 25th, I confirmed with Walton County Building Department that all permits had finally been pulled for the building permit construction, which eliminated that one off. The only remaining violation was the white sands importation violation. Thus, the hearing today. As of today, I have had no further contact with either the property owner or the contractor since July of 2019.
What would they have to do to come in compliance?
They would have to remove the gravel out of the driveway. Sorry, wrong way. The notice of violation signature card was signed by Mr. Brooks, as well as the notice of hearing card. Again, this is a current picture of the driveway. As you can see, the gray gravel is still there.
That was today.
That was 2 days ago.
Are you not allowed to put any base down at all for a road? Or could you put-
There is the potential that it can be allowed under certain circumstances on a roadway that will be covered, encapsulated by concrete or blacktop, et cetera, but it's very specific, and it's usually done through the development order process when you do a roadway of how you're going to do that. The average single-family home who just puts gravel down for their driveway, that doesn't apply, normally speaking. There is also a provision in the code that would allow them to go forward to the Board of County Commissioners to ask for a specific exemption on a specific project. But again, that's a process to go through. The fact that since July, no one's bothered to communicate or talk to me or do anything other than accept the notice of violation, the notice of hearing, speaks volumes in itself. All right. My recommendations are as follows, that the address 51 South Lake Drive, Santa Rosa Beach, Florida, is located within the unincorporated area of Walton County and is subject to 4.0701 of the Walton County Land Development Code. That proper notice of the hearing was given to the respondent. That the violation of Walton County Land Development Code 4.0704 does exist on the property. That the respondent is to correct the violation within 10 days of the date of this order. And the respondent is further ordered to contact the Walton County Code Enforcement Department to arrange for a reinspection of the subject property to verify compliance of the order. That if the respondent fails to comply with the above actions or fails to bring the property into compliance with the applicable codes, ordinances, and regulations according to this order, a fine of $250 a day until the property is brought into compliance. And once again, kind of briefed over this. White Sands Protection Zone. This is the actual wording out of the code language. No person may import or cause to be imported into the White Sands Protection Zone of Walton County, Florida, any construction, landscaping material that is not an approved material. A person may use or transfer for use any prohibited material into the White Sands Protection Zone in connection with any paving, road surfacing, filling, landscaping, construction work, or any other improvement to real property. It's very clear. Any questions?
Yeah, I've got one.
Okay.
This is not strictly, what are you supposed to use?
Well, whatever was going to qualify for White Sands in the White Sands Protection
No, I
Zone.
do this for a living, okay? And
Mhm.
more than once.
Sure.
I've had this question, and I've never had a satisfactory answer.
Well, I know as far as rock material goes, white dolomite does pass, typically speaking.
The stuff that comes from Mariana, that area?
That I don't know where it comes from. I couldn't attest to that.
Well, that stuff's not suitable for a driveway around a house.
Well,
Yeah, we use Bahama rock, but it's seldom available.
otherwise, you could also upgrade to other materials if you don't want to use and go through the trouble of trying to find rock, or if it becomes impossible to find rock, you could always upgrade to pavers or some other material that you could use where a white sand base would work.
At a considerable expense.
Again, I didn't write the code language. The code language is what it says.
And the county's exempt.
The county is exempt from road work, yes, municipal work.
Sure doesn't seem right to me. Yes.
Mr. Rose, can you go back to the picture of the property? Have an overhead picture of it at all?
Just the area, you mean the aerial from?
Yeah. Can you blow that up?
Not particularly, no.
On the left-hand side of the picture on that property adjacent to the road, it looks like there's a, my map here is a horseshoe-shaped driveway.
Correct, you're talking about where it's a common driveway from one parcel into another?
Well, I see directly in front of the house, there's a,
You're talking about the house to the north?
I'm talking about, if you look directly left of the house in question, part of that driveway comes in and sort of horseshoes back out to the road. My question is, what is that material made of, and is that in the White Sand Protection Zone?
That I couldn't answer because I didn't have a complaint on that, and I did not do any research on that property.
That property? We're talking about the same property. Right to the left-hand side of the building that we're talking about, there is a portion of a horseshoe road that comes in and off the street.
It goes back into the other lot, though, I think. Goes.
Hold on, let me do it this way. Watch your finger.
So I'm just asking, the question is, if you come off off the road and access the property you're talking about, what is the material that takes you from the road up to the house?
Are you referring to this area right here?
Yes.
Oyster shell, wasn't
Most of that area is dirt. Most of that area is just sand.
And is that in the white sand protection zone?
Yes,
So is that illegal?
Natural.
not if it's native to the parcel, it's not. And I couldn't answer that if it is native or not native to the parcel.
Native to the parcel, it's not.
Correct.
So if he had just bulldozed up the side of the house, would it have been all right?
Again, that's an assumption that has nothing to do with what's there. It's not what they did. They had done this.
I understand that they put something down, but
Correct.
if they had not, would he have been all right?
Yes, if they had not put anything down and they had not imported a material, then they would not have been in violation of the white sand protection zone.
And the material that was laid down there
Mhm.
can be scooped back up, huh? Or
I
is-
would imagine so. It's
I mean,
gravel.
It's not hard stand of it?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Rose?
Okay, if there's no other questions at this time, I'd like to, for the record, submit my report and testimony and to the report.
I accept Mr. Rose's testimony into evidence. And now, you, sir, are the property owner?
One moment, Mr. Stein, do you accept his report as part of the record as well, in addition to his
Yes,
testimony?
yes.
Thank you.
I accept the report and the testimony. Yes, sir, please walk up here and identify yourself.
My name is Richard Robbins. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Brooks. He's in his mid-80s. He lives in Birmingham, Alabama. And I think it's a shame and a disgrace that this man in his mid-80s had this placed on his property to show up at a suite, a dozen suites up that's full of pallets and no electricity on it. I think it's a disgrace that code enforcement people have misspelled my last name. This is the material right here. You can pass it around if you want to. The material that's on his lot is these large rocks. This is an example of the same material crushed to a smaller size.
That ain't for us to
I have a
decide.
list of over 150 properties in a triangle that's formed by Eastern Lake Road, County Road 38, and Lake Drive. There are approximately 300 properties in that area, and over 150 of them have that identical material in the driveway. Ryan Street has 50 houses on it, 40.
Mr. Robbins, I'm going to stop you because
Okay.
much as you can tell, I'm sympathetic to what you're saying, okay? But we're here about Mr. Robbins and the fact that there,
Brooks.
I'm sorry, Mr. Brooks, and the fact that there may be 149 other violators in the area really doesn't affect this matter before us,
Okay.
okay? So if you have something else to say, I'd love to hear it.
I have plenty to say. There was no clearing on that lot.
Well, we're not here about the clearing. That's an issue,
Okay.
but that's gone.
All I can say is that the gravel that y'all have just observed, everybody uses it, and if Mr. Brooks is singled out to be punished for this, the original white sands protection was for south of 38. 99% of 38 runs within 400 or 500 feet of the beach or closer. Mr. Brooks' house is 2,000 feet away from the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, but the ordinance also applies to the shoreline of the coastal dune lakes. So,
Well, if you.
He falls into
if
it two
the-
ways.
The topography of Mr. Brooks's lot is it's high at the lakeside and it falls back toward Lake Drive. So there's no chance in hell that any of that material will ever wash forward into the lake.
well, Mr. Rose said that there was the possibility of going to the county commission in a particular instance. I don't know if at this point you can go to the the zoning adjustment board? I don't know if there's a provision for doing.
I've built
Hey,
six,
look, I've been here 35 years doing this stuff,
Okay.
okay? I'm well aware of what you're saying, okay? And Mr. Rose, Mr. Carpenter will attest to the fact that numerous times I have questioned this ordinance, because it doesn't flat me make any sense.
it makes no sense at
Okay,
all.
but it exists. They haven't changed the law. This poor guy got caught. We're stuck here enforcing the law.
Okay, well, I would like to file a complaint on these other 150.
Then you have every right to do that. And you go in there tomorrow and you tell the county,
I'm
hey,
not gonna do that because that just justifies these people riding around in these fancy pickup trucks collecting big fat
look,
salaries.
I don't want you to think that I'm unsympathetic to what the
I
county,
understand.
the county
I
is doing
understand,
either.
Mr. Stone.
Okay? I understand where they're coming from and understand why the ordinance exists. But the ordinance has, from the get-go, been vague, poorly written, and impossible to comply with.
That's right. The tourist development people even use that stuff.
Well, the
on
fact that the
anything like
county can do it isn't right.
Yeah, and the tourist development people do it, all of William Street, it's a private street, all of William, all of Brown, all of May Drive, 1,500 feet, each street, 1,500 feet long, covered with that gravel, and they single out a 80-year-old man to try to make an example of, I guess. I don't know what they're trying to do.
They have to respond to whoever brought the complaint, okay? And their only logical, legal response is, hey, this is a violation. You got to correct it.
Right.
And we are not in a
Well,
position to change
we're
the
not
law.
going to correct it unless it comes down to a lawsuit. What's the next step with the county commissioners?
Well, look, if we find that Mr. Brook in violation, and we fine him, hey, that goes. You can appeal it. The appeal from here is to the circuit court. That's correct, isn't it?
I thought you just said that there was an available option with the county commissioner.
That was, I never heard that before, but that was Mr. Rose, and that's pre-violation. That's not post-violation, alleged violation.
Well, let me tell you, the planning commission, I guess in the few suites down, wherever it's at, they still approve on plans, put gray crushed gravel, they still approve it.
I'm right there with you.
That's all I have to
Just
say.
an aside, several years ago, there was a planning commissioner that actually violated this thing by bringing in the wrong color material and had to go back and.
That particular ordinance was specifically for red clay dirt. It had nothing to do with stone that does not migrate here and migrate there. And it also was never intended for a house 2,000 feet away from the Gulf of Mexico.
You might could get the county commission and get them to work with you on it somehow. I would think you could anyway.
The thing that needs to happen is there needs to be a clear ordinance that we can or cannot follow.
Clear, but it's clear the wrong way.
Yeah,
It
but,
needs to be,
yeah,
I mean, like he says, the stuff don't migrate, the rocks are there.
yeah.
It don't discolor anything, really.
Well,
Killing flies with an atom bomb.
I'll let y'all vote on it then.
Is there a variance procedure? I know that we talked about pavers and stuff like that. Can he apply for a variance
To keep the material that he has
to keep the
there?
material where it happens to
Maybe
be?
he can apply, I don't know.
You can apply, I don't know what you do, but it'd be worth a try.
Well, it's it used to be a $450 application for a variance, and I appeared at one time as a complainant, and head of the variance thing at the time, I can't remember his name, he made the statement that they never approve a variance in arrears. It always has to be approved before you do anything. If you do something and then apply for a variance, they let you go in and pay the $400, they let you show up, and then they tell you that they don't ever approve something that's already been done.
Mr. Sullivan.
Can you tell me how many yards of material you put down here in this case?
I didn't put it down, sir. I took this job over. This poor old man has been dragged through he's been beaten out of $40,000 or $50,000 by that John Carroll guy. And, he's at an age that he doesn't even really want to try to recover that money. He's so sick for about getting entangled with that guy.
Give me
It's,
that.
it's.
I can tell you it's about a
it's-
truck full.
It's
Yeah.
one truck full. It's 12 or 13 or 14 yards. It's 20 tons or less.
Well, let me ask you this question, maybe you can answer. How much would it cost to scoop it up?
I can give you a price.
I could,
I don't think you can bid on this.
I can,
I said price, I wouldn't do the job.
I
But
can,
to
I
re-
can,
yeah.
I have a tractor with a box blade on it. I can recover enough sand 50 feet away from that to cover those rocks up.
No, I don't want to cover them up, I'm going to pull them away.
Mr. Rose says that if they're covered up, that's fine.
So we can put sand on top of the rock that we're not allowed
I'm
to
not
have?
sure, I'm not sure that's
But,
true, yeah.
Mr. Rose,
Nah,
Mr. Rose says that when you have a pile of junk or a refrigerator sitting in your yard, that you can cover it up with a tarp, and that solves the problem.
Okay, well, in this case,
I can cover it up with some black plastic.
if he were going to put down bricks, then clearly that stuff becomes the layer behind bricks.
That's
It's the
right.
base material.
But it's encapsulated.
Yeah, and then you put a layer of sand, a bedding sand, put down bricks and you're done. But you just can't leave it as an unfinished driveway.
Cover it with a
That's the
tarp.
law. It makes no sense.
Cover it with a tarp, right?
Well, I don't know about that.
I'm just kidding. The question I have, how expensive would it be to scoop it up? Just roughly,
$300.
$300. So if we wind up finding this gentleman $50 a day until he fixes it, he can get it all done for $300 and get out of here.
Look, that's just an estimate, but I do this for a living. It's not
Yeah,
an
okay.
improper estimate.
But I can also cover it up.
Get my point?
I do, but you get my point.
This is sounding a
cover
little
it
bit
up.
too much like the impeachment.
I have a question. If he does cover it up, does that meet,
Pardon?
if he does cover it up with sand, does that meet the requirement?
Of
Or
course
does
it
he
does.
have-
It's encapsulated.
It does not.
It does not.
You have to be careful about the landscaping that you do on a coastal lake too.
Well, if you can cover up piles of trash with a piece of black tarp or cover up a refrigerator with a tarp, I don't know why you couldn't cover up a driveway and it'd be acceptable.
Well, look, what you have to do to, or what he needs to do to come into compliance is not something we can tell you right here. Okay, you got to work with the code enforcement department, not the board. If they are satisfied that what you've done brings you into compliance, great, we're done.
Or cover it up with black plastic.
Well, you might want to talk to Mr. Rhodes before
Well,
you,
Mr. Rhodes says that you can cover up refrigerators and piles of trash with black plastic. You surely can cover up a driveway with black plastic.
okay. Any other questions for Mr. Robbins? Okay. Thank you. That'll close the public part of the, do I need to accept his testimony into evidence?
Does the county have any objection to the admission of the submission of the materials?
Okay.
And to file that in an appropriate place.
Don't put it down in the public. Okay, I'll listen to discussion among the board. What do you think we ought to do?
You know, before he does anything, I think, like you said, he needs to meet with code enforcement and be sure that whatever action he takes is appropriate.
Yeah, but our role is to give him that incentive.
Exactly. But I think he was sort of saying that, you know, I'm just going to circumvent this and,
Well, that's up to him and the code department. That's not ours. But he's here because he's put down a material that's not within the law. And our job is to enforce the law.
correct.
This is one of those,
I live on a coastal lake. I don't know if I should recuse myself or not, but I think.
well, hey,
there's
if
only-
anybody ought to
there's al-
recuse.
Yeah, well, there's only 5 or 6 places on the whole earth that we have coastal lakes like this. So anything the county wants to do to protect them. We don't, in Florida, all this land that we're on used to belong to the king. And so we have, when we got the right to use the land, we had to give up some of those inherent rights to the government. And I think this is one of those things that they want to protect. The government has a right to protect.
Well, unless you want to make a statement.
That's my statement. That
Vote and make a statement.
Yeah. Okay, will anybody make a motion? Well, hey, Mr. Rose, what was the recommendation? 250 a day?
10 days.
Somebody's got to make a motion, yeah.
All right, I'll try to make. I would be, in this case, inclined towards being a little more lenient than Officer Rose's recommendations are. Still, think I agree with everything that's been said here. I mean, the ordinance is vague. It's easy to misconstrue. It needs to be fixed. But with that said, I mean, there's a violation in place. I think with that said, my motion would be to give Mr. Brooks 30 days to come into compliance, and if he does not do so, then to reduce the fine to $50 a day.
I second.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, the fourth case here. 19-002-693. Is this one going to be you, Anna?
Good evening, board members. For the record, I'm Officer Anna Reichert. I'm submitting this presentation of a non-compliance hearing and the setting of fees. This case involves case number 19-002693, property owner Jutta E. Boyd. The violations were maintenance of property and junk and litter. The location of the property is Freeport area. That's not real clear there, but it's just north of Highway 20 in the Black Creek Lodge area. On September 19th, this code board found this property to be in violation of code sections 5.07.08B and 7.02.01A1. On September 20th, a final order was sent certified mail with a return receipt with 30 days to comply with the final order. On October 23rd, an inspection of the property showed no change in the condition of the property. Violations remained and now are subject to fines being assessed. On October 24th, an affidavit of non-compliance and a notice of hearing was mailed via certified mail to the property owner as listed on the property appraiser's website. On October 30th, a notice of hearing, this hearing, was posted in the notice box at the South Walton Annex, and a notice of hearing was posted on the property and an affidavit of service was filed. These are pictures of the property conditions on it's actually past the compliance date, October 23rd. The vehicle is still there. The trash and litter is still there. The dilapidated boats remain on the property. These are copies of the non-compliance and the notice of hearing that was sent. My recommendations are that this board find that 497 Black Creek Lodge Road in Freeport, Florida, parcel number 022 South 19 24000 018 0013 continues to be in violation and I ask that you set the fine amount of $3,300, which is what is due from the date of compliance until today, and to please set continuing fine of $50 per day per violation, which there were 2, until the property is brought into compliance.
Okay.
Have you heard from anybody?
No, sir.
What's the valuation on the tax rolls for the property?
I didn't look that up, sir.
All the, everything that's in violation is portable. It can be moved
Yes,
somewhere else.
yes.
Any other questions for Ms. Reichert? If not, I will accept her testimony and evidence and report into evidence, sorry. Okay, anybody got a recommendation?
Do we have anyone from the?
Oh, is there anyone here? I assume not, since they hadn't. There is no one here.
I move we accept the recommendations of the code enforcement officer.
Didn't we already move to do this?
This is setting the fine. You've already found them in violation and gave them a time to correct the violation without, and then the fine started. So the fine started on 10/19 of 2019. Calculation of the amount of fines that have accrued from 10/19 to 11/20.
I second his recommendation.
All those in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, and we'll go on to 19004276. No, we did both those. That's the same thing. That's Eastern Lake.
Okay, you're right.
It's those two guys arguing about each other. Go ahead.
Okay, for the record, I'm Officer Reichert presenting this case. I'd like to submit this presentation of the non-compliance hearing and setting of fees for case number 19-004276. Owners are Huie Place Land Trust of number 604 Davis Lane North. The violations were maintenance of private property, mobile home standards, overgrowth, prohibited conditions, dilapidated structures, and prohibited conditions. Whoops. This is a view of the property appraiser's website. This is located in North Defuniak, on the outskirts of the city limit. On September the 9th, 2019, this board found this property in violation of code sections 5.07.08B, 5.07.11, 7.02.02A, and 7.02.03A. A copy of the final order was sent certified mail with a return receipt with 30 days to comply with the final order. On October 23rd, an inspection of the property shows no change in the condition of the property. The violations remain and now are subject to fines being assessed. October 24th, an affidavit of noncompliance and a notice of hearing, this hearing, was mailed via certified mail to the property owner as listed on the property appraiser's website. On October 30th, a notice of hearing was posted in the notice box of the South Walton Annex, and a notice of hearing was posted on the property on October 31st, with an affidavit of service was filed.
Officer, may I correct you before you move there? The 9/9, should that be 9/19?
Yes, I'm sorry. Correction of September 19th, 2019. On October 23rd, the property conditions remained unchanged. This is first of the two, there's a total of 6 trailers. These are the first 2. And that picture's not very good, but there's the trailer is still there on the right-hand side. You can't see it for the glare. But those are trailers number 3 and 4. These are trailers 5 and 6. These are copies of the affidavit of noncompliance and the notice of this hearing. And my recommendations are that the Code Board find that 606 North Davis Lane, Defuniak Springs, Florida, parcel number 25-3 North-19490-000-A060 continues to be in violation. And I ask that the board set the fine of the amount of $8,250, which is from the date of compliance through today, and to please set the continuing fine of $250 per day until the property is brought into compliance.
Okay, I'll accept Ms. Reichert's report and, why can't I do this? Evidence,
Her testimony
testimony and report into evidence.
with the report, with the change.
With a
to the
correction
date.
of that date from 9/9 to 9/19.
So I got,
Is there anyone here on the other side? No, okay.
I got a question. I guess more of a point of order question. And Renee maybe is the one answering. So if we wanted to not, or if we're making a motion, what other motion could we make other than to approve? I mean, we've already,
Once you've heard
can
the
we
evidence.
reduce
you
the
can-
fine? Can we abate the fine? We could do whatever we want. Not that I'm saying I want to, I just.
I mean, your motion,
Trying
she
to
makes a
understand.
recommendation as a witness, as the petitioner. And then you hear the other side, and then you make a decision as to what you want.
Because, I mean, we've already made the motion for these fines to,
Right. The
approved
last,
it. So,
yeah, so
okay, I'm just trying to understand what.
now these is a little different because, you have set the fine. And do you still find those fines to be appropriate?
They've been lived in.
Okay, I do not know. This, when we got the complaint and I went out, it was the first time I've ever seen them. The health department, as was presented at the original hearing, said they only have a record of 1 septic tank for a single-family home, not for those 6 trailers.
They've been there for years.
Attractive nuisance. Not too attractive. Renee, never mind.
There's really not a good way to move old homes like that on the highways to get them to somewhere, some
You
other
gotta
place.
crush them right there in town.
County's got to seize the property.
Yeah.
At some point in time, once the fines get great enough, that can happen, but these also are, as someone said, an attractive nuisance. And the county could make a motion, but that's beyond what this board can do. The health department could get involved, especially with
Okay, was there a second?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Have you ever
Well,
had contact
let me,
with the
wait,
owner?
let me,
I'll
we'll get a
second.
second.
I'll second.
Okay, now go ahead.
Yeah. Have you had contact with the owners?
No, someone is signing for the receipt of the certified mail, but no one's called us, contacted us in any way.
We visited this a month or so ago, and did you say that this office over in Fort Walton Beach collects the mail? Is that correct for this?
The address that we send it to is in Fort Walton. I don't know if it's an office, a house, nothing, but someone is signing for it.
We have no provision to march that paper over there? I understand that, but nobody's answering the door, so I mean, such a thing? Can
Well,
we
they're signing for it, so they're receiving
use such
it.
a thing as a warrant, or is there any way we can go bang on that door and say, here,
What are you trying to accomplish?
They sign
serve
it.
these people? Nobody's answering the mail.
Well, they're aware that there's a violation.
They've signed, they're
signing
signing
for it.
for the mail. They're just not responding.
Who signed that? The people in Fort Walton?
Yes.
Somebody's answering the door.
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? It carries. To Dave's point about why we're doing this, why we're going through it again, I understand that we need to find a violation, that the violation exists, but I don't understand why we have another try at the fine. Why at this point can we change it?
Well, I misspoke because I didn't realize this, wasn't thinking this was a new case. On a new case, you certainly can. On an old case, you would have to really find just cause to change it. Now, in this case with a public nuisance, you might be able to rehear the amount of time per day, but you're finding that the violation still exists and you're enforcing your order and giving
Right.
the number to start running now.
Well, we already did, right? They owe $8,200. Yeah.
You set what's up to this point, and then from this day forward, it's $250 a day. There's no way for them to bring it back into compliance until it comes into compliance. They still owe the fine
Okay.
because they went past their grace period.
So let me ask,
Yeah,
I
go
don't mean to beat a dead horse. So if, say they come into compliance 30 days from now, and they've accrued another $250, what, times 30 days, do they have to come back again for us to approve that?
Well, not to pay it, but if they want to reduce the fine, they would come back on their motion.
Well, I understand that to
it.
reduce it, but
You're finished at
the
this point.
code enforcement staff wouldn't have to come back for it. Okay.
It's in an order as if it was a court order, because you are a quasi judicial. So when Jennifer files this, it is an order that the fines are accruing at $250 a day.
So long as Walton County exists.
And if the property's sold, all this would have to be addressed at the sale.
Be addressed at closing.
Okay, let's go on to 186278.
All right, for the record, I'm Officer Anna Reichert, presenting the noncompliance hearing and setting of fees for case number 18-006278. Property owners are Lynn and Claudette Stewart. Violations are building setbacks on two separate buildings.
Left the zeros off mine, I don't guess that matters.
I'm
then.
sorry.
Does it?
Oh,
I don't think the zeros.
On our agenda, I don't think it matters.
Okay.
This is a view of the property appraiser's website where it's located. It is north of Defuniak, west of 331 in the Kings Lake area. On September 19th, this code board found this property to be in violation of code section 5.00.03 on two buildings. On September the 23rd, a copy of the final order was sent certified mail with return receipt with 30 days to comply with the final order. On October 23rd, an inspection of the property shows no change in the condition of the property. Violations remain and now are subject to fines being assessed. On October 24th, an affidavit of noncompliance and a notice of hearing. This hearing was mailed via certified mail to the property owners as listed on the property appraiser's website. This is a picture of the reinspection on October 23rd. If you can see way in the back, the small storage building still remains, and the pole barn or garage there still remains in place. These are the copies of the affidavit and noncompliance and notice of this hearing. Our recommendations are this board find that 640 Paradise Island Drive, Defuniak Springs, Florida, parcel number 25-3 North-19-19490-000-A060 continues to be in violation. And I ask the board to set the fine amount of $3,300 for the time that has passed since the date of compliance until today, and that the board set a continuing fine of $50 per day per violation until the property is brought into compliance.
Okay, I'll accept Ms. Reichert's report and testimony into evidence. And is there anyone here on the other side that wants to speak about this?
I believe there are, yes, sir.
Sir, could you step to the podium?
Hang it to him.
Kind of accommodating.
Yes, sir. Would you introduce yourself, please, and tell us what you have to say?
Yes, sir. Thank you. My name is Lynn Stewart. I live at 640 Paradise Island. And that is, everything that Ms. Reichert told you is correct. She did a good, thorough job, other than they might spend some time teaching her about being courteous to citizens. Other than that, she did a very good job. I respect her because I spent 14 years with the Walton County Property Appraiser's Office circling buildings on the north end, buildings on the south end, and buildings along Highway 20. So I understand what it is to face a homeowner when you're there for whatever reason. I don't come here today asking you for no pity. That's not what I want. I want you to, people like Mr. Porter, I know people listen to you. I want you to listen to me one time. You've got drug into something that's more than just a carport and a utility building, and I apologize to you that you've been drug into that. I, for the last 4 years, have been fighting a disease called Charcot, and I have not been able to get my leg healed in the proper way. I had to retire from the property appraiser's office because of it. And I finally found me a radical doctor in Pensacola that was really from Chicago that has fixed my leg finally. And I'm with this thing and a boot that they're gonna build me, I'm gonna be walking here one day, soon. But my point is, I want you to listen to me. The system is broken in that department. They good folks. It's not their fault that it's broken. The fact that you sit here and have no regard whatsoever for a citizen of Walton County's feelings is irreparable. But there again, I respect the way you do business because that's the only way you can do business, is the way you handle it, and I respect that. I don't want you to quit, to change the fine. I don't want you to do anything. I'm here to tell you and the gentleman sitting back there, this, Mr. Porter, do you remember Ed Powell?
Ed Powell?
Yes, sir. Yeah. I'm in an Ed Powell situation. You know what I'm saying. And I'm not good at fighting battles, man. I don't like battles. I like life to be sweet. But I'm not, there again, I won't shut up. I'm not asking you to change the file. I'm not asking you to change anything. But I'm here to tell you and them, those two folks sitting back there, that carport ain't coming down no time soon. And that utility building that's been there 25 years, that utility building that's been there 25 years, it ain't being moved. They can rest, they can do all they want. They can call anybody, them all they want. You can find me, just like you said, until Walton County comes to an end. When I'm dead and gone and buried out there at Mosshead, where I'm gonna be buried, my wife's buried by me, it ain't gonna matter what you find. Now, my son, he'll inherit it. If he wants to tear the carport down and get the fine done away with, that's up to him. I'm here to tell you, I respect you and your job, and I thank you that you gave me 5 minutes of your time. There again, I thank you.
Before you step away,
Yes, sir.
I appreciate your sincerity. What is it exactly that you want to prove, that you want to demonstrate to
I want
us?
you to see that there is no common sense applied through the code enforcement office. Common sense would have told that young lady, look, I've got a doctor willing to write me a medical excuse for that carport. That's why that carport's there, is because that's the end of the house that I access my house at. And at the time I was having to have help getting out of, still am. I had to, when you have to go to a meeting and your son has to come with you, you know what I'm talking about.
I get it.
It's not a good feeling. That boy right there knows that I'm a straightforward fella. And like I say, I want you to know, don't worry about me. I'm gonna be all right. But I'm talking to them. The carport, I'll be there tomorrow. And I apologize for pointing. The carport will be there tomorrow, and when they bury me, it'll still be there. Thank you.
Okay. So do you want to answer any questions of anybody else?
Yes, sir. I'll be glad to.
Porter?
I'm gonna recuse myself. I'm friends with the Stewart family, have been for years, and I wouldn't wanna prejudice.
Anybody else have any questions?
I do. When was this case originally heard? Was it in September? Were you present at the?
No, sir, I've not been able physically to be here to today.
No one that could have represented you was here either? Because, I mean, just to your point, that would have been the time to state what you just stated.
Fine, I understand, and I didn't have anybody to represent me.
We only are able to make a decision here based on what the evidence we are given at these meetings. We don't know anything else. We don't know squat.
I understand.
So if we don't know any better and nobody bothers to show up to defend themselves or represent themselves, what choice do we have?
None. I've already said, I understand your position. I've been there, I know what you're saying, and I
All right.
respect
Well, I
that.
understand you trying to make a point. I'm just
I
wanting to
just
make
want-
a point, a counterpoint to you, so.
And I appreciate that. I respect that.
I have a question. The shed's been there 25 years?
Shed, the utility building, been there 25 years.
That was not grandfathered in by the property appraiser?
Could have been.
It ought to been. That's another thing, gentlemen. Neither one of these items, the utility building or the carport, as far as tax assessments, are building items. They're extra feature items. The Walton County property appraiser doesn't even see them as building items. He sees them as extra features. And they just assign them a value. And they're, just so you understand, and everything's out on the table, there was no permit pulled. At the time, I was not able to do anything, and the boys that did it for me was a bunch of country boys from Darlington and Liberty. And they went and got one of those pole barn things, put it up. They didn't pull no permit, I didn't. So there wasn't a permit for it, so it was an unpermitted building. But I'm here to tell you, you can ride down 331 and there's barns that were built as barns that are now houses.
Man,
Yes,
is that less than 400 feet?
less than 400 feet where?
Yeah,
Square feet.
the carport.
12 by 24.
That's,
Yes, yes, it
that's
is.
less than 400 feet. They shouldn't
I
even be
didn't have to-
bothering you.
Well, that was what they told me. They didn't think that I had to have one, but, it is within the 7-foot setback, but
Oh,
the
okay.
next thing go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right. I
apologize.
didn't know, the setback is the problem?
Yes, sir. And I live on Paradise Island, and for you fellas that don't know about Paradise Island, there's 51 parcels on the island, and Dr. William Permenter developed it. And there's not space there for the ordinances that you're having to enforce. The space is not there. I can't even get far enough from the center line to be off of the center line of the road because of the space. Of those 51 parcels, more than double of them have the same situation I have. I'm just being Ed Powell. What's
More
the
than-
width of your lot, man? 100 by 120. I have a 76-foot-long house with so many feet on each side. And I have an oak tree, a red oak tree that I wouldn't cut down. So there we go with that. That's part of the setback problem. But my point is, the setbacks in these ordinances, just like they didn't fit for that your deal a while ago, this particular community, those ordinances don't work there. I just, you know, the point I wanted to make was I haven't been able to get anybody to say they would listen to me other than a few people these folks listen. The building and the planning, they do all they can do, but they just, I think where I'm going from here, so you'll know, I'm going to the county commission, and I'm gonna get me a lawyer. I hadn't had the fees to do that, but I'm gonna get me a lawyer, and I'm going to the county commission, and I'm gonna insist that they treat Paradise Island as a separate entity that doesn't, because there's just not any way that anybody out there can fit into those setback rules.
I'd suggest you save your money and make the presentation, because you're pretty articulate.
Lynn,
I'll tell you, this board, when the lawyer comes in, it's like, whoa, okay? And when somebody like you comes up and appears to be telling us just as straight as they can, that's a lot more convincing.
let me ask an opinion from the county attorney and the head of planning. Is there any exemptions for an area that would have been grandfathered in that would not make those present-day setbacks because of the way it's original? Is there any provision? None. Okay. Handicap be the second question. Is there any provision for those that are handicapped? If the shed were cantilevered, could we get an exemption if it was moved over a couple feet and only the cantilever was in the setback? The only issue It's just the setback issues
Out
all
of the
it
bay,
is.
yeah, it requires a permit.
Could the neighbor sign relief?
There's no building permit requirement. Unfortunately,
No. Could the adjoining neighbor sign a waiver with the, exempt?
Can they get a variance? Like he could, well, the land,
I think we got a
person,
hardship.
If setback
I can't say that they could obtain a variance.
yeah,
Certainly they're entitled to apply with
right.
Certainly should try.
I have a question. If setbacks are a problem here on Paradise Island, how many complaints have we had about setback issues at all, totally around the island? Is this the only one? Pardon me?
Because he wanted to.
What about unofficially?
Yeah.
They exist.
There may be
Fellow
other
from
complaints out
Paxton,
there, and I
fellow
will
from
say
Paxton.
this, I will say this, looking at it from an aerial, Mr. Stewart's property is not the only one that's potentially in violation, but he is the only one who's still outstanding. We did not go out there looking for that.
It's,
We don't have that authority in this location. We responded to a complaint.
And who complained?
A neighbor,
is it the neighbor,
a neighbor.
is it the neighbor that the setback applies to? Oh, were you sworn in?
Yes.
I'm asking for trouble.
Stick around.
Trouble, yeah,
To be fair, we had complaints on both sides of this property.
okay.
I complied.
You
I
comply.
had to have surgery myself. I complied with their complaint.
Get him up here, not have to.
Well, yeah, well, come,
We did not go looking for this violation, but we are required by law to respond to it as part of the process. Also, I would suggest
Yeah,
because this was developed,
and there's no,
25 years ago or more.
So the grandfather would apply to something that was in place prior to the.
Have there been setbacks on this plat?
No, but I'm talking about like, I mean, you look at right out there in Blue Mountain Beach, the brickyard. Every one of those structures just about is within a setback, but they've been there for whatever, 50 years, or most of them.
Those
Or
were
more.
originally done, they had covenants and restrictions.
But now they're in violation, but they've been grandfathered in. So I'm saying this is,
In the county's confidence.
96,
A
yeah,
number of
96.
subdivisions like that have active covenants.
Is there room to move it over? We just moved.
Haven't personally been there, but I would like to think that there would be.
Man, you have 4 feet.
the only way to do it would be to cut down a red oak tree that I'm not willing to give up.
That could be the hardship. He could.
Yeah.
Could we trim and build around it?
Yeah, we could, there's something, but I'm not financially able to do that at the time.
We'll cross that bridge next. I just want to know, can we get you in compliance?
Could be, yeah.
Yeah, they don't have to be removed, they just have to be.
We can fix this.
And, okay. Well, look, we're going to thank you for your, yes, sir.
Can I be sworn in? I didn't get sworn in, but can I?
Yeah, you can be sworn in. Would you stand, please?
State your name, please.
Chad Stewart.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this board? Thank you.
Okay,
He's so
would you
sworn
step up here?
First of all, as he is,
Would you please stand in front of a microphone so
Yeah, I'm
I can
sorry.
hear you?
He's not.
State your name,
Yeah.
please.
Chad Stewart, I'm Lynn's son. The entire issue with pole barn. Friends, they weren't financially able to purchase it. I purchased it, got some friends, we came and put it together. I work for the GIS department for the county. I should have known setbacks. It didn't even cross my mind. So either way, if you move it over, it's still aesthetically, it's not going to be, I mean, I understand that everything can't be what we want, but it's just not feasible to move it over. It's not feasible to cut the tree down, a red oak tree that's, been there since we moved there. I was 10, so 30 years ago. I mean, so, I've actually talked about doing the cantilever, looked into that, and that is a possibility. But as far as moving it with his ability, his situation he's in right now, being able to get in and out, the place where it's at is by far the best place for him. Anyway, appreciate you letting me speak.
Okay. All right.
Anna, can we go back to the photograph of the pole barn? How did you measure that setback? From where to where? From the fence, from the,
Oh, I apologize. I'm sorry.
Lynn, is that your fence?
Well, there's the fence, according to the Walton County Sheriff's Department, as of yesterday afternoon, the fence is sitting on the line. I had to call, I was trying to clean my yard and, we was blowing leaves and I had to call
But I have to read
deputies
his
out there
lips
anyway, because
he's
there
not-
again, I'm faced with Ed Powell situation. So I had to call them out there, and as you see, there's an orange flag there on the fence, and according to the Walton County Sheriff's deputy, the fence sets on the line. And if she measured it from the fence, she was proper. Like I say, she done her job and correctly as could be.
Tom, a point of, can I have a point of order, please,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
All we have to work with here is the fine. We've already passed the resolution that is non-compliant.
That's true.
Right?
Right,
So instead of listening to more testimony,
right,
let's work with a fine.
okay.
Now, I don't think we can abate the fine from the time, during that period of time, but we certainly can discuss the ongoing fine.
Is that true, Renee?
And
Yeah.
if he comes into compliance at some point in time, then he can come back and ask to have that abated. But I think that's what we have to deal with.
Sir, would you step up here just so I can see you better?
Excuse
But-
me,
Yeah,
this is between me and Walton County, not
I'm
him.
just about to say the same thing,
Okay.
okay? Yeah. What Victor just said is accurate, okay? We're here just about the fine, okay? The case itself has been heard, okay? So at this point, I'm not going to take testimony from you because we're not going to retry the case. Look, and I accept that they have. Okay, look, you can bring a civil matter against him. You can go to the code enforcement department and bring some complaint against him. But at this point, you cannot address the matter that we're speaking of.
I'm the one that has to pick up all the sticks.
Look, I get it, but I'm not ready to hear it now. It's not me that can hear it. Okay? So, thank you, Mr. Stewart.
Thank
If
you.
everybody's acceptable, I'm going to close the public part of the hearing, and we're going to discuss the fine.
Thank you.
Anna, can you go back to the recommendation slide, please?
My original question was, is it the pole itself that you measure from or the overhang to the property line?
Oh, you mean the support for the carport?
It's the structure, and then you have another 18 inches.
Structure, the roof line, the
No,
edge of the roof?
structure of the actual foundation of the columns, and then you have about 18 inches you can be over that, as far as.
You
the
can,
roof.
you can set into the setback 18 inches from the post. Yeah, show us the picture, could you?
Sorry, Anna.
But again, Victor, you're speaking against yourself. You told me,
No,
What we're
the
rehearing-
setback, the setback is to the structure, the base of the
but
columns.
we're rehearing the evidence.
No, you asked a question.
Yeah, I just
I'm
want
asking you a
to,
question.
I asked a question.
There's no
I won't
question
ask
it's in the
any more
violation.
questions.
Well, we already determined it's in the setback, and the other building is in the setback,
We
so
need
that's
to
already
train
been,
the
that's already been
GIS
heard.
people on the code.
Right.
Okay, Anna, can we go back to the recommendation slide?
Yeah.
I just want to say that the pole barn, the garage, not only is it in the side setback, it's in the front setback.
Yes, I understand.
Setback according to the Walton County Road Superintendent. Feasible, you can't, there's nobody in, not enough space.
Okay. Okay, Victor, there's the,
I think if we're in agreement that we can't do anything about the $3,300 because
Well, not tonight.
not tonight, we can't, okay? But I think we can discuss the $50 continuing as long as he understands that if he wants to come back later on and ask for a reduction in that fine, if he comes into compliance, he can certainly do that.
right.
So it's a matter of how much we want to approve, $50 or $25 or $300, whatever that is per day.
Anna,
I just want to say, when I spoke with Mr. Stewart, he told me he was not going to remove it, he was not going to get a permit, and he was not going to get a violation. And that was way before we came before the code
You're
for,
not gonna get a violation.
But
I mean, not get a variance. Told me he was not doing any of that. And like I said, that was before it was even came to the code board for the non-compliance.
But he could get a hardship variance, possibly?
I do not know.
Where would he go for that? I mean,
There's-
is there,
Someone else would have to speak on that.
The application for a variance would be through the planning department. If there's a hardship of the land and there's not enough room to put a structure, and it's because of the shape of the land, that might be something that the zoning board of adjustment would consider and possibly grant a variance for. I certainly can't speak for them. There are certain criteria that you have to meet to support variance approval, and the board is required to actively identify that they've met those criteria during the hearing in order for them to issue an order approving a variance.
Is there a,
But that's an opportunity that's available, and it may be that if these lots are not deep enough, that they could possibly apply for a hardship variance for the carport.
is
and the
there
front
a
setback.
possibility that they can do for, I know they make variances for handicap parking. I mean, is that something that's considered?
That's a possibility.
How about for
That I think
saving,
they would
how about
consider.
for saving trees of significant heritage oaks or whatever?
There have been cases where a variance has been issued in that context. One thing I will say, though, because a variance has been issued on a particular parcel, that is not a precedent for issuing a similar variance on another parcel.
Right.
The code is very clear, and it spells that out.
Say that again, would you? I missed something.
Just because a variance has been issued on one parcel does not set a precedent for issuing a variance on another parcel. But to answer the question specifically, there have been cases where variances have been issued to save a large tree, variances that have been issued in the case of some kind of handicap or disability to accommodate that. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that one could possibly be granted for the carport. Granting a variance for the shed that's in the setback in the back, not sure that there would be similar grounds for approving a variance there, but I mean, the due process is available to apply for a variance.
How long does that take? To request a variance in this case?
The board meets the fourth Thursday of each month, and typically the variance application has to be filed around the first of the month.
3 days?
To go to the hearing
To
in
the
the
same
same
hearing?
month. So it's a 30-day process.
Okay.
If you make application in time to get on the very next board meeting.
Renee, is it possible to forgive the fine for some period of time and then it goes into effect, say 60 days from now? The continuing fine?
You can reduce it, you can take her recommendation, or you can adjust.
But could we say it's $1 a day for 60 days and then it goes back up to 50?
Yeah. That's good.
If a similar plot of land were developed today, would the lots be bigger?
County has no minimum lot size, other than the minimum size necessary to meet all of the requirements and standards in the Land Development Code. So we got some incredibly small lots in South County. But they're large enough to meet all of the requirements of the Land Development Code.
There's a bunch of them out in Oakwood Hills, but several, they bought 2 lots to, most of them, a lot of them did, 2 lots to build on.
Those generally don't meet all the requirements of the Land Development Code, but they
Two
are
of 'em?
lots of record, and we allow a house to be built on them. Typically, people pick 2 of them and build a house on it. They have enough room for an adequate yard. You've got some in the county that are 25 feet wide, and don't have any special plat consideration for setbacks and those things.
The county setback lines are 15 or 7.5 foot on each side? So you got 10 foot to build in?
That's a shotgun.
Circumstance, what people typically do is they
Drive a
buy a
Volkswagen.
cluster of those lots.
Yeah.
Because I think they're not more than 50 feet deep. Some of them may be 40 feet deep.
Wow.
There are several of those kinds of antiquated subdivisions in North County. But to answer the question, there's no minimum lot size other than the size necessary to meet all of the requirements of the Land Development Code, which includes the setbacks.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. Okay, anybody going to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the officer's recommendations, except reduce the continuing fine to $1 a day to last for a period of 60 days.
And then it would revert to $50 a day?
That'll give him time to go to county.
Remember, it's 2 violations, so $2 a day and then $100.
No, it's,
Cents.
I'd go for just $1 a day, 50 cents per
It-
violation.
Yeah,
Makes
this
it
is only
easy.
a $50 complete.
right.
Can you put the condition in that he needs to go and see if he can get a variance?
Yeah, Dave.
Has there been a second in the motion?
No, there's only been a motion, well, and I'm not quite sure. Would you restate the motion?
Discussion, actually.
I would accept the officer's recommendations, except reduce the continuing fine to $1 a day for both, I guess there's 2 violations, for both violations. That's $1.50 each, basically,
For a period of
for a
60
period of 60 days. And I don't know how you would phrase that he needs to go in and ask for a variance, see if he can get a variance.
Somebody will second that. I think I
Okay.
can address that.
You'll
Okay.
second it? Okay.
I think we need to consider here that Mr. Stewart has stated to us that he does not intend to come into compliance, and he does not intend to pay the fine. My thoughts to that would be, as far as him and giving him some incentive to go get the variance or try to come into compliance, would be, well, maybe we do reduce the fine or we don't. If he's true to his word, he's not going to pay it either way, so I don't know that it matters. But I would be more inclined to leave the fines in place as they are now, with understanding that if he changes his mind, wants to go in and try to do something to bring himself into compliance, we can rehear it at a future date when he does so and consider it at that point to whether a fine abatement or reduction or whatever the case may be.
Okay, well, we'll have to vote the first motion, and then if that fails, we'll consider doing it your way.
Let me clarify the first motion. The first motion is that, number one, you've accepted in the recommendation. Number two, you've accepted the fine to be set for the current violations to $300. And then what you're changing is, number three, would be $1 per day for 60 days. And that is total for both violations. And then $50 per day after the 60-day abatement. And does that go to $50 a day total or $50 a day times 2?
It goes back to the original fine.
Okay.
$100 a day.
Compliance, does he have a chance to come back in and take out?
Yes, then he could come back, definitely.
That's happened, yeah. Okay, any further discussion of the
Is
motion?
there a second to that motion?
I'll
Yeah.
second that.
We have a second.
All right, so somebody restate that, clarify that for me again. So what about the compliance?
Your motion before he seconded, to my recollection, and we would
Yes.
have to go back, is that you accept number one and number two of the recommendations of the officer, of Officer Reichert, and then number three, you have changed to $1 per day for 60 days. That is 50 cents each violation. And then after 60 days, it reverts back to the original $50 per day per fine,
Yes.
per violation.
Okay, that motion was made and seconded. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yeah, no.
Gordon?
I was gonna recuse myself, but I just vote no. That's
Okay.
all that.
But if you've accused yourself, you can't vote
Can't
at all.
vote, but
Okay.
anyway, it doesn't matter,
All right,
Gordon, you
doesn't
got
matter
outvoted.
either way.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, then the motion carries. Look, we've been at this an hour and a half, so I'm going to take a 5-minute break, but let's try to be back here at 6:30.
Thank you, Chief.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah, $1 a day for 60 days. Well, they've been, I come every time thinking I'd be bored to death. And I am about 70% of the time I am, but the other
I know,
30%,
you're right.
it's pretty interesting. There's always a
I
wrinkle.
I just don't get, unless I miss something, he has 100 left.
Go to executive club meetings.
We'll continue. The sooner we start, the sooner we end.
Right after the tea party.
Okay, we're back. We've got 2 to go. Okay, the 7th case, 19006767. Yes, sir.
I'm Officer Curtis Knapp with Walton County Code Enforcement. I'll be presenting case number 19006767. Parcel ID 02 to Sierra 19240000110040. Property of Brown, William P. Address is 190 Anchor Road, Freeport, Florida. Land use is rural residential. Code violations is 70203, dilapidated structure, and 70202, overgrowth. Upfront summary, on 09/12/2019, Walton County Code Enforcement received a call that a mobile home was abandoned with busted windows, skirting tore off the side, front porch was dilapidated, and the property was extremely overgrown. On 09/17/2019, I arrived at the location and observed a trailer, yellow in color. From the public right-of-way, the windows and doors appeared to be intact on the front of the house, but the skirting on the front of the home had several issues. The yard was overgrown with bushes and vegetation. This is a violation of Land Development Code 70202, overgrowth, and 70203, dilapidated structure. I would attempt to make contact with the owner. Went to the front door, no contact was made. This is property location and ownership. Anchor Road is a dead-end street that's off Black Creek. It comes down off 3280. Code violations are 70203, dilapidated structure, and 70202, overgrowth. On 09/17/2019, I arrived at the location, observed a yellow trailer. From the public right-of-way, the windows and doors did appear to be intact. The skirting on the front of the home appeared to be intact, or intact, not intact. The yard was overgrown, brush and vegetation. This was, of course, a violation of 70202, overgrowth, and 70203, dilapidated structure. On 10/8/2019, a notice of violation was sent to the property owner. On 10/09/2019, the letter was shown as received on the U.S. Postal Service website. I didn't get the green card back. On 10/15/2019, inspection showed no change at the house other than the bushes were growing more. On 10/25/2019, notice of hearing was sent to the owner of the property. On 11/1/2019, inspection shows no change. On 11/21/2019, today, there was no change at the property. And I also verified the notice of hearing was received on the U.S. Postal Service website. Also didn't receive the green card on that. This is notice of violation, notice of hearing. Inspection 1, you can see the trailer house. Initially, on the first inspection, I didn't notice to the left side of the porch, there's actually a place where a hot water heater is falling out of the building. And of course, the porch, everything is falling apart on the side of the building, and then you can see the overgrowth. This was the final inspection today. Same deal, just you can see the hole. It's actually behind that small tree there. And then on the other side, I couldn't get adequate photos from there, but it has a large bay window and the glass is missing, but without trespassing on private property, you really couldn't get a good photograph of it. Please find that this parcel 02 0 Sierra 19240000110040 is located within an unincorporated area of Walton County and is subject to Chapter 7 of the Walton County Land Development Code. Please find the violations of Section 70202 and 70203 exist of the Walton County Land Development Code do exist on the property. Please find that proper notice of hearing was given to the respondent. If the respondent is to correct the violation within, I had 10, but 14 days of the date of this order, and the respondent
Which is it correct, 14 or 10?
14. And the respondent is further ordered to contact the Walton County Code Enforcement Department to arrange for reinspection of the subject's property to verify compliance with the order. And that if the respondent fails to comply with the above actions or fails to bring the property into compliance with the applicable codes and ordinances and regulations according to this order, that the board assesses a fine of $250 a day until the property is brought into compliance.
Questions for Officer Knapp? Hearing none, I'll take his report and testimony into evidence. And is there anyone here who's going to speak to this matter? Yes, ma'am.
Across the street.
Pardon?
Across the street.
Were you sworn in? No.
No, I was not.
Do you need to add anything that he hasn't?
Well, I do have the picture of the water tank falling out.
It's okay. He's got a picture of it, so
Yeah.
we're okay.
And the fence, yes.
Okay, well then, I'll listen to a motion or discussion of the issue. Oh, hey, in the, putting his testimony into evidence, you'll correct the two errors, right? Yep.
Yeah, oh, thank you for bringing that. We'll correct that
The
error.
not intact skirt and the 14.10. Yeah, I'll close the public part of the hearing, such as it is. Speak up, will you, so that, Rob? Yeah.
And let me make an announcement, when you're up here, and gentlemen, if you could, let's all try to speak into the microphones for recording purposes and those of us who can't hear well.
Okay.
I make a recommendation, we accept the officer's recommendation for the fine and timeframe.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. All right, one to go. Case number 18003680. Mr. Lynch. Oh, you mean that kind of, yeah. I'm not worried. We cleared the place out. We cleared the place out. Yeah, well, on the other hand, it's a lot quicker when they, yeah,
It's all right.
the money that they did.
Say Lynch anymore.
Huh?
I don't know if you can say Lynch.
Actually, in blackface, ain't
Good evening, Board. I'm Code Enforcement Officer Michael Lynch. For the record, I'll be submitting this presentation and testimony for evidence. This is going to be a noncompliance and fine-setting hearing involving case 18003680, parcel 17, 3 North 20 28080 042 0010, the property of Jason and Elizabeth West. This property is at 21 East Clover Lane, Defuniak Springs. We heard this case back in October. Just to remind you, there's two different structures on this property. To the south, we've got a home, stick-built house, and then to the north, we've got a mobile home and several accessory structures.
Is that picture a drone picture?
That's the property appraisers
Okay.
website. On 10/17/19, the Walton County Code Enforcement Board found this property to be in violation of codes 5.07.11, 7.02.01A1, and 7.02.03A. On October 18th of 19, I was able to make contact with the property owner, Elizabeth West, by phone and advised her of the numerous attempts to contact her and her husband and discuss the violations on her property and the results of the Code Enforcement Board hearing of 10/17 of 19. I explained that they had 10 days from the time of the hearing to clean up their property or they'd be assessed a $50 a day fine until the property came into compliance. Ms. West advised that they would do what they could, and the deadline for the compliance was 10/28 of 19. This was one, if you recall, they had the children and the stuff everywhere. It bothered me, and so I went home, thinking about it. I woke up that morning, I thought, I wonder if I can find them on Facebook. And I actually found an Elizabeth West because her name's spelled differently. So I found her on Facebook, and I found a person that she was friends with in the planning department. So I spoke to that person and said, would you reach out to this person and have them call me? And she did. And when I told her that we've reached out so many times, and I said, do you receive mail at 21 East Clover? She says, yes, that's our only mailing address. And I said, I've sent multiple mailings, and I've knocked on your door, and I spoke to some lady named April. That's their cousin. So when I told her that this had happened, and, you got to get the property cleaned up, there was a lot of excuses. And I said, look, the time for that is done. You've got to show me something. And she asked for an extension. I said, I can't go to the board unless you show me something. Show me anything. And so I've been going back since the last ruling, and there's been no correction, nothing at all, which you will see. On 10/21 of 19, a copy of the final order was sent certified mail with return receipt. On 10/23, an inspection of the property shows no attempt thus far to correct the violations. On 10/29, an inspection shows no progress in correcting any of the violations. This property is in violation now and subject to fines being assessed. A notice of hearing and a copy of the affidavit of noncompliance was sent certified mail. On October 30th of 19, a notice of hearing was posted in the public notice box at the South Walton Annex. On October 31st of 19, a notice of hearing was posted on the property to a tree at the front of the property at 10 a.m. in the morning, and I had filed an affidavit of service. On 11/21, this date, I actually received the returned undelivered final order. They're still not signing for their mail. And on the U.S. Postal Service, I tracked the notice of hearing, and they didn't sign for that either, and it's scheduled to be returned back to me. These were the conditions on the day that the fines were to take place after the period had expired, the 10 days. There's still junk and debris scattered on the property. They still have overgrown vegetation. I can't explain it. There's just nothing. They made no attempt at all. And they had good weather. That was during a period of time where it was sunny and warm. You couldn't have asked for better conditions. This is a copy of the affidavit of noncompliance on the left and the notice of the hearing on the right. This is the mailing of the affidavit of noncompliance and the hearing. I put them both in one envelope. This is the posting on their property. That's the tree. I didn't feel safe walking up on the porch as I did before because the first time I thought I was going to fall through, and I wasn't. I'm too old to risk that, so I stapled it to a tree in a very visible, prominent location. The pictures on the right are the postings at the public notice box at the South Walton Annex. I would ask you to please find that 21 East Clover Lane, Defuniak Springs, parcel 17, 3 North, 20280800420010 continues to be in violation. I'd ask that you set the fine amount of $1,250 for the period of 10/27/19 to today's date, and that you continue a fine of $50 per day until the property is brought into compliance. At this time, I'd ask you to accept my testimony and presentation into evidence.
And I will accept it into evidence. Does anyone have questions for Officer Sir?
I have a quick question, if you would. When you talk to her, does she know that she's getting fined? And
Yes.
fined?
Yes.
What was her response?
Non-committal and didn't care. And I told her that, there's grave, but they don't pick up anything. I don't think the money, I don't think anything matters to them. I mean, there's been no attempt at all. They do have children. She said that she's got 3 kids, and I said, I understand that, but, you know, it doesn't take much to at least pick up pick up the toys and the junk. There's trash and filth. They wouldn't. I would. There's probably 200 pounds difference. So I'm not concerned about them falling through the porch. There was no gaping holes, but it sagged a great deal when I stepped up.
I recommend we accept the officer's recommendation.
I second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries.
We didn't, on the record, you need to,
Yeah.
so fast, on the record, you'll need to ask if there's anyone there on behalf of the homeowners.
Oh, okay, just for the record, is
For the
there anyone
West.
here on behalf of James and Elizabeth West? Hearing none.
To close the hearing, and if you gentlemen would mind redoing your motions and vote.
Oh, okay.
That way, because otherwise you did it when you didn't give them due process.
Recommendation, we accept the officer's recommendation for the fine
Seconded it.
and the continuation.
Okay, and we all voted, it was a unanimous vote in favor. Okay, no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Yes.
And a second. We are adjourned.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yes. Are we going to have it this